Hello everyone, my name is Isaac aka The Baddest, and welcome to the long overdue conclusion to my two-parter on the Freddit Game Jam. If you haven't watched the first part, I'll put an annotation in the top right, and it'll be the first link in the description. In the last video, I went over 9 of the games that were submitted to the Freddit Game Jam that ended back in August. In this video, I will be going over 8 more. I was originally going to talk about 9 in each video, but I didn't want to include another just for the sake of making them equal, so we're just going to leave it at 8. To remind you that may have forgotten, and those of you that didn't tune in last time, this game jam is all about FNAF fan games made with the theme of non-horror. So these are all FNAF fan games that aren't scary, which isn't always my favorite when it comes to fan games, but there was so much creativity in this jam, so I'm very excited. We have plenty of content to go over, so let's get into the first game. Freddy Faz-Dude's Say No game is such a fascinating and unique fan game, and although it makes me want to tear my hair out with how challenging it is really creative. This one has a lot to talk about, so before we get into how fucking difficult it is, let's pick apart some of the layers first. First of all, the very concept of this game is really cool, and it's executed surprisingly well. This game parodies 2 different bad game cliches, and it does both perfectly. The first one is right in the title, with the Say No game thing. This game parodies PSA games, if that's the term you'd use. In fact, I'm pretty sure this game was directly based off the NES game Wally Bear and the Say No Gang. Primarily in the 90s, there were video games released that were meant to deliver important messages to the kids playing. The aforementioned Wally Bear and the Say No Gang was an NES game meant to teach kids not to take drugs. There are other infamous examples, but that's definitely the inspiration behind Freddy Faz-Dudes. While the original was meant to teach kids not to do drugs, Freddy Faz-Dude just wants to teach all our favorite FNAF characters not to jump scare people, because scaring people is wrong. These lame games from back in the day are just so easy to make fun of, and this is the first time I've seen a fully fleshed out parody, and it's done really well. The other bad game cliche that I referred to earlier was simply that of a 90s computer game. They look janky as fuck, and yeah, this game definitely does as well. I've seen people compare it to Doofa's, Scott Cawthon's first game, so maybe that was intentional, but I think the graphics were just made to look like your average 2D computer game from that era. In the very grand world of FNAF fan games, this one really stands out as something unique in its concept and style. Alright, with the compliments given, this game drove me absolutely fucking mental. This game is just so goddamn hard. There are enemies everywhere, at all times, and they either move or attack in ridiculous ways. I'm not saying it's unfair, but it's really difficult. There are characters that move really quickly and jump and have ridiculous range. There are characters in the air that have just as obnoxious movement patterns. There are characters that shoot in every direction when you get near them. And some of these enemies are outrageously fast. Like, I swear the reaction time required to dodge some of this shit is absurd. This game is just a bitch. And I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, but you get hit as soon as you spawn in the first level. No matter what I did, I was guaranteed to lose health at the very start because there is always an unavoidable enemy. But there is hope for losers like me, because a notepad file is made on your desktop when you start playing the game, and you can just type in the level you want to skip to. That's the only way I was able to play the later levels, though I still didn't beat the game because I would have had to beat the last level, and you are out of your goddamn mind if you think I'm doing that. Although the gameplay is so unbelievably difficult for my baby gamer brain, it is legitimately a really good game. I might be awful with challenges, but that doesn't mean I don't enjoy and appreciate a challenge. The platforming is really good and creative and all over the place. It's completely ridiculous, you have to react quick constantly, you have to be so precise, it's just insane, but I do love it. Freddy Faz-Dude's Say No game is great in so many ways, and that's what makes it such a great fan game overall. It's creative, but also a parody, and it's a funny concept, but it's backed up with actually good gameplay that drives me absolutely insane. Overall, this is in my top 3 from the jam, and I really respect how unique and creative it was, and just how much it had to deliver for a jam game. This next one is called Passion of the Fazbear. Let's take a look at the title screen. Oh my. So, Freddy goes up to Bonnie and lets him know that he's been doing some calculations, and discovered that they have 0 bitches. This is obviously very disheartening news, but Bonnie throws out an absolutely genius idea. Get bitches. Our duo's plan is to use the Pimpmobile to get some bitches, but the Pimpmobile is apparently broken for whatever reason, so it is now our job to find all the missing parts of the Pimpmobile. Now we get some actual gameplay, which is always nice to see. The track Don't Stand on the Donuts from Super Mario Bros. 3 starts to play, and that's something I really appreciate. You run around the pizzeria, beating up enemies that consist of party hats, pizza, I think, and big lemons, I don't fucking know. Once you complete the very difficult challenge of collecting all 4 missing parts, you have pieced together the Pimpmobile, and Freddy is not impressed. "How do you suppose we get bitches in this thing?" says Freddy. "It just needs a fresh coat of paint," says Bonnie. We then get to decide the color of the Pimpmobile. Each of the colors apparently have a different amount of kids killed to obtain the color. So, I completely ignored the color and just picked whatever had the highest death count. Next, we play a top-down racing game that is outrageously fast. You have to avoid hitting the other cars on the road whilst collecting passing gas cans so your car doesn't run out of fuel. This is a really traditional arcade-style game, but it is so hard because the speeds that you reach are insane. After the top-down racing game, Freddy and Bonnie have a short discussion on where to find bitches. Freddy suggests they check out the grocery store, and no, that doesn't lead to the offensive but undoubtedly hilarious joke that we're both thinking of. Bonnie refers to Freddy as amigo, and Freddy says, "I didn't know you speak Italian," to which Bonnie then compares himself to Jesus. I swear the devs of this game must have been so high when they made this. When we reach the grocery store, we find a wide variety of bitches, but for some reason, we beat the shit out of them instead of trying to get with them. The best part is when the level is over, Freddy seems surprised that everyone is dead, even though he just beat all of their skulls in. Freddy finds a note underneath a dead body left by William, calling him gay. He freaks out and tells Bonnie that the purple man took all their bitches, to which Bonnie tells us that the demo has ended. Freddy has a little existential crisis and the game closes. So, that sure was something. Jokes aside, I actually really like this game. It has a good sense of humor that reminds me of classic fan games like Fuck Boys and Day Shift, and it managed to fit quite a bit of gameplay into an experience that lasted like 6 minutes. It starts off with a side-scroller with beat-em-up mechanics and collecting things, and then there's a top-down racing game slapped in the middle, and then there's of course the tremendous beat-em-up game. I have no idea what the full version of this game will look like. I can't even really imagine how they're going to flesh out what is essentially Freddy Fazbear's Get Bitches simulator, but I am definitely intrigued and looking forward to it. Although this game is very clearly a masterpiece, we should probably move on from here. Anchovie's Adventure is a very simple RPG where your goal, I think, is to defeat enemies to get money, to get pizza, to reach the final boss, and you immediately beat the game because the boss doesn't actually exist. I guess. This one is admittedly rough around the edges, but for some reason, I couldn't tell you. I liked it enough to include it in the video. So in this game, you encounter enemies and mash this one button to win. You also get pizza slices by walking through the trees that don't have collision, but no, there's no indication of whether or not you can walk down a path or not. You get pizza until you can reach the end where you once again do nothing. This same developer actually made a game purely based on the ball pit minigame from FNAF 6, and I kind of wish that was their entry to the jam because although it's made up of stolen assets unlike Anchovie's Adventure, it's an adorable game that actually has some pretty fun movement with its harder difficulties. Maybe that's why I'm being so charitable to this entry, because I'm convinced the dev can make something really fun and cute if they put more time and work into their creations. If Anchovie's Adventure was more fleshed out as an RPG, I think it'd be a solid game. The pieces are certainly there. There's an original character as the protagonist, most of the mechanics are implemented, it has a clear start and end point. I think with a wider variety of enemies, a better design for the area, and some other touch-ups, this could be a solid fan game. Overall, Anchovie's Adventure is very flawed, but I believe it shows potential, and I wanted to mention it. Animatronic's Attack is actually a really creative concept, and one that a lot of people were looking forward to during the jam, but it is somewhat flawed. Basically, you select 3 of the 4 main FNAF characters, and you place them in the Freddy's location to go attack the Night Guard. It's a bit hard to explain, but you'll understand with the gameplay on the screen. Every character has their own ability and a different cooldown. Once again, this is a cool idea. The faster you get to the night guard, the more points you earn. Strategizing the placement of the characters and the timing of the abilities is pretty interesting. It somewhat reminds me of Bonnie Simulator, with the concept of FNAF 1 being reversed. This is obviously more complex than Bonnie Simulator, and I do think it's better, but the problem with it is essentially the same as the problem with Bonnie Simulator. It's too luck-based, it's just too random. It took me quite a few attempts to win at the highest difficulty, and when I did, it didn't feel deserved really because I did nothing different. But luck isn't always bad for a game, and I could definitely still enjoy the game because of its many features, much like Bonnie Simulator. Bonnie attacks pretty quickly and has a short cooldown. Foxy dashes quickly from Pirate's Cove as long as Freddy isn't active. Chica has the ability to immediately recharge all your characters after a certain amount of time, and she also has the shortest cooldown. And Freddy has the ability to drain the battery, but that literally never did anything for me, plus he's the slowest, so fuck him. I do also want to acknowledge that I love the presentation of this game. I'm a sucker for anything in the old school arcade style. I like that it goes from one title screen to another. It's like it transitions from the actual game to an in-universe arcade game. The pixel art is nice, and the sound design is nice, the use of points is nice. I just love this type of game. This game is definitely solid, and I think it's fun to play through, but it isn't something I'd revisit, if that makes sense. I beat every difficulty, and I played around with every character's moves. I don't really feel the need to grind for a higher score or anything, especially since I have so little control over the end result. But yeah, I would recommend this game, and the fact that it was made for a jam makes it even more impressive. It's definitely one that I think more people would want to check out. Princeton Panthers, I think that's how you say the name? That's what we're going to go with. Princeton Panthers Pizza Chase is a surprisingly well-made survival collectathon, if that's even a thing. In Princeton Panthers Pizza Chase, you play as a gross fat child loose in Princeton Panthers Pizza Place, and your goal is to collect all the pizza slices scattered across the place whilst avoiding the animatronic chasing you. The gameplay is really simple, so much so that I don't have much to say about it. However, it's what takes place in between the levels that is a true must-see. In between each level, there's a little scene of a meeting between the workers at Princeton Panthers Pizza. I don't know how to say this name. Although these are certainly awkward, the third one is so fucking random and literally comes out of nowhere. One of the employees gets confronted for drawing smut of the pizzeria's characters and fired on the spot for doing so. This has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the game and is utterly irrelevant, but that very much does not mean it isn't noteworthy because it really stands out.
Curly, I don't think we can have Jeffrey working on our team anymore. I've been looking through some of his art of the characters, and he seems to have taken a very different liking to Charlene. He's extremely problematic. Just look at this. It's literally smut. He's drawn smut of the cheetah, Kelly.
What's going on, guys?
Jeffrey, we need to talk.
Okay.
We found your drawings.
Okay, what about them?
You're done, mate. You're fired.
Dude, are you serious?
I really wish I could tell you what the next meeting was, but I couldn't get past this stage. I walked around for ages. I'm pretty sure I went out of bounds a few times out of desperation, but I literally couldn't find the last pizza slice to save my life. It's definitely my fault and my stupidity, but that would be my one complaint. I feel like it's a little too hard to see the pizza. In my experience with the game, I wouldn't say the slices are that hard to find. The placements aren't a problem, but it is so hard to see your surroundings, and I'm confident I was really close to beating this stage many times, but just couldn't notice it. Overall, this is a solid fan game, even if it's nothing that grand or significant. It's just a fun little survival game with some collecting and really fucking weird interludes in the mix. Toy Chica's Pizzeria Backstories is a game I do not understand at all. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm saying, what the fuck is this? This game is separated into 3 backstories, and the first one makes sense. It is the backstory of Toy Chica, but the second is the backstory of Octo Steven, and I do not know who that is even after googling it. I can only assume it's an original character. Then the third one is apparently a Crash Bandicoot character, but I've yet to play a Crash Bandicoot game, so I have no idea. This is where I will remind you that this is a submission for a game jam made for Five Nights at Freddy's fan games. Toy Chica's backstory starts with a backstory made up of Minecraft models. As far as I can tell, nothing happens besides a man named Mr. Frank buying Toy Chica for $5 grand. Then the actual game is a tycoon game, but not really. It's more like a clicker game without clicking. Your money just increases over time, and then you buy what you need, and everything is just kind of done for you. I don't want to say it's a bad game, but at the same time, it isn't really a game, because you have essentially no input or control. Once you've waited long enough to buy everything, there's another Minecraft-style cutscene where Mr. Frank tells Toy Chica she's going to have her own restaurant. And that is it, that's the end. So the only FNAF part of this FNAF fan game is the shortest and most boring part. So I guess we might as well cover the other two. Octo Steven's backstory starts at BBC Studios, where some pink dudes and one orange dude are watching Teletubbies. The orange dude receives a sign at the door that says, "Dear Steven the Vampire, we need your assistance. Come to Octo Valley. We'll give you a weapon of ours. Sincerely, DJ Octavio." So, you're telling me, this guy is named Octo Steven, and he has to go to a place called Octo Valley to see another guy called DJ Octavio. That's not weird at all. Do proceed. Then the actual game for this backstory is a platformer that is absolutely impossible. Step aside Freddy Faz-Dude because this bitch is borderline unfair. This game is a 2D platformer where you have to shoot the enemies in your way that are also shooting at you. And it is bullshit. First of all, it's rare that the enemy is directly ahead of you, which is normally fine, but the physics of this game make it impossible to actually time and land your shots. Whereas the enemy has fucking aimbot on at all times. They shoot so accurately, and with your character's stiff, weird movements, it's so hard to actually avoid the shots. And honestly, that'd all be fine if the enemies didn't shoot so fast and often. You have so little time to attack the enemy before you need to jump and avoid the shots coming your way. This drove me mental. However, it's not that bad. If you can adapt to the painful controls, it's a regular platformer with shoot-'em-up mechanics. I did not beat it, it was simply too frustrating, but in comparison to the waiting game at the start, this is alright. The final backstory is about Princess Coco, and this one is easily and by far the best part of the game. It's a platformer, and although it is short and pretty easy, it's the best part of the game in basically every way. It looks the best, it's the most fun, it's the most creative. The opening cutscene of this one has something to do with Aku, and Cortex. Again, I don't know anything about Crash Bandicoot besides the fire dance, so I do not care. The Princess Coco backstory is a platformer where you have a spin attack that acts as your way of attacking, but also a way to jump in midair. It's a pretty standard platformer, and although it still doesn't control perfectly, it's pretty solid. There are 2 levels, and they just consist of getting through each area and killing enemies and avoiding obstacles. It's really simple, but I like platformers, and I do not need to be blown away by everyone that I play. Toy Chica's Pizzeria Backstories is a FNAF fan game, but it is also a Splatoon fan game and a Crash Bandicoot fan game. And I guess also a Minecraft fan game. I find it odd that this was an entry in a game jam about FNAF, but I guess it did end up being one of the most varied games, so that's something. This game is weird, and although it's not the best, I respect the effort, and I definitely think this shows that if the dev keeps working on making games, they can probably make something pretty cool in the future, but maybe make something a little bit more coherent next time. Peepaw Afton's Escape might make this game sound a little weird. That's because it is. This game is weird as fuck. A lot of you have probably seen this, but for some context, there's been a lot of memes and jokes since the release of Security Breach, dictating Burntrap as an old man and Vanny as their caregiver. Burntrap is basically the most crippled version of Springtrap, and Vanny is his new follower, so I guess there were people in the community that turned that into a young woman taking care of this mangled, dying old man. Peepaw Afton's Adventure, the first game in this duology, turned that stupid yet amazing meme into an entire game. And fuck, this is such a hard name to get right every time. Peepaw Afton's Escape, the second game, was released as a part of the Freddit Game Jam, and it's just as bizarre as it sounds. In this game, you play as Peepaw Afton, who is now in a nursing home. It is your goal to collect all your pills around the nursing home, the description says they were stolen, I don't know why, and then escape the nursing home. Spoiler alert, I didn't beat the game, so I don't actually know what happens at the end, but I think I got enough out of my experience. You basically just complete minor tasks for each of the animatronics in the building, so it's essentially a series of fetch quests. The gameplay isn't really the most fun in my opinion, but it's everything else that makes me actually really like the game. This game is fucking hilarious. Peepaw Afton, as he is meant to just be an old-ass man, complains constantly and grunts in pain simply from walking. He curses and bitches all the time, and it's just really entertaining. I said I didn't beat the game, however I did get one ending. Right at the start, I was like, hey, what happens if I interact with the window? Turns out Peepaw Afton makes the galaxy brain decision to jump out of the window when you do so. The best part is Glamrock Freddy walking by and just ignoring him and not helping.
Freddy! Hey, Spotify boy! Yeah, you, come here! Come here! Hello? Hello? Are you deaf? Hello? Hello? Bitch! Yo! Music man, whatever the fuck your name is, come here! Fine. Leave me. Leave me, you piece of shit.
Since I'm covering 8 games in this video, I won't get into every little detail just for the sake of time, but I would honestly recommend this one if you enjoy comedic FNAF fan games, which I definitely do. My favorite FNAF content is the more dark and horror-focused media, but I love some of the humor that certain fan games have, and this one did an excellent job at being a stupid joke that's actually worth playing. The gameplay is a bit slow, and it's not the most exciting, but it has a lot of content to offer, and I really appreciate the effort, and it's entertaining overall. 5 Days in Hawkins is a FNAF fan game, but also a Stranger Things fan game. And I know absolutely nothing about Stranger Things. I have seen a mere 10 minutes of it or so there is likely an insane amount of depth to this that I do not understand, and I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. With that being said, this game is fucking fantastic. In this game, we play as Steve and Robin, 2 characters that once again I know absolutely nothing about. Steve and Robin are apparently making $0 an hour, so the bar is so low that they decide to work at the new Freddy Fazbear's pizza location. And again, although it may be simple, this game is really fun. In 5 Days in Hawkins, you switch between playing as Steve or Robin working at Freddy's. You're given a task displayed in the bottom right corner, and you essentially go from area to area, completing these tasks as fast as possible. Each day is only 3 minutes, and you need to try to squeeze in as much work as you can. The game is pretty simple, so I might as well just go over the tasks. There's certainly a lot of mopping. There are many areas that you may have to mop, and you do so by mashing the left and right arrow keys. If you like mashing buttons, this game is going to be top tier for you. Sometimes you'll have to fix the dance machine in the arcade, which consists of pressing the arrow keys in the correct order, like a game of Dance Dance Revolution. You have to clean dishes in the kitchen by rapidly clicking on them. Once again, if you like button mashing, you will have a good time. Also in the kitchen, you have to make pizza by placing the toppings in the right spots. You also have to do math. The task is called Add Income, but I don't really see how that makes sense. But it works, and the math isn't hard. There's a task where you have to blow up a balloon for Balloon Boy, and you press B to blow. What a great reference for me there. You have to fix Mangle, kind of. You have to organize the pieces of Mangle into the right boxes, which is a totally fine task, but it's slightly odd that this counts as fixing Mangle. You also have to fix Bonnie's guitar at times. Music notes will appear in the wrong order, and you need to swap the notes into the right order. However, there were 2 times where the notes were in the right order, and I didn't win. I'm pretty fucking confident that it goes A, B, C, D, but hey, I guess I may be wrong. And lastly, you can fix Freddy, who sometimes needs his eye replaced. As you can see, Freddy really cannot handle not having this eye. You might think the tasks are too simple, and I definitely think there could be more variety, but I just find this game really fun. I like trying to complete as many tasks as possible in the time given. It's just a really satisfying game. Not to mention just how polished this game is. The pixel art is fantastic, the graphics are so pleasing to look at, and the colors really pop. The music and sound effects are fun and match the cartoony look of the game. The gameplay may be simple, but it's fast-paced, so if you make it fun, it is fun, and everything built around the game is essentially perfect. My only real complaints are the fact that the Bonnie task literally broke on me twice, and the hitbox for the endo piece in the Mangle task is so fucking small for such a long piece. Oh yeah, and there's story after each day, but again, I don't know these characters, and I literally do not care about this. Overall, this game makes it into my top 2 of the Game Jam, and that might seem outrageous to some of you, but that's just my opinion. So that's the end of this duology about the 2022 Freddit Game Jam. Once again, I apologize it took so long to get the second part out, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you were curious, here is how I would personally rate the games I covered from best to worst. Nothing but respect to all of the devs that participated. This is just my opinion, purely based on how much fun I had playing the games. I'm really happy I played so many of the entries, and I'm happy I decided to make this two-parter. This jam really encapsulated how diverse and creative the fan game scene is, and I really loved that. There really is something for everyone, and that is incredible. Reminder that all the games featured in this video will be linked in the description. If you would like to check any of them out, I highly recommend you go support more underground developers. That is going to be all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you would hit like and leave a comment. It really helps me out. And if you want to see more from me, you can subscribe and click the bell to turn on notifications. Thank you for watching once again. I will see you guys next time.